Thanks, Ceann Comhairle. Minister, the question relates to the independent review mechanism that you set up into allegations of historic cases of Garda malpractice. It was looking for a progress report. You had previously told us that there were delays. Initially, you thought it was going to be 8 weeks. It turned into being a year. You said because they had sought extra information. My question deals with how many of those cases was extra information sought, and what was the status of those of the cases before the mechanism?
Thank you. The Minister.
Well, I think we've discussed a number of times here, Deputy, the number of cases that were referred. There was very wide criteria, and obviously the time frame I'd indicated at the beginning it turned out to be quite different given the scale of the cases that were referred and the mechanism that I set up. It is the first time that a government has taken steps to examine the range of cases that were of concern to a variety of people, including deputies. And it was an unprecedented exercise, not attempted previously. I think it provides an independent, objective and consistent approach to dealing with these complaints. In relation to your question, a total of 320 complaints, as you know, were referred. You know the process of the independent review mechanism, so I won't go over that again. But I do want to say to you, the Council are totally independent of my department. They determine the steps necessary to review each case. They have the facility to request my department to seek further information from the complainant or from other bodies which they believe may hold information which is relevant to their considerations. Further information was provided by complainants, can I say to you, in over 200 cases. So in over 200 cases, extra information came in, and in fact, in the course of the last couple of months, a huge amount of material was continuously submitted by complainants, which had then to be examined by the independent review mechanism. Information was also requested through my department at the request of the panel from the Garda Síochána and the Garda Síochána Ombudsman Commission in approximately 80 cases. So extra information was requested by the panel from a combination of GSOC and Garda Síochána in 80 of those 320 cases.
Thank you, Minister.
Just might make a very brief point. You know that I have asked a judge to review the reports that are going out to individuals. Those reports, the judge has looked at quite a number of cases at this point, and the reports are being sent out, have been sent out in many cases to individuals at this point.
Dealt with how many of the cases have been concluded, but subsequent to the question being tabled, some of the people who made complaints have begun to get replies, and to say that what they received is beyond their worst expectations is probably an understatement. The letters that I've seen back from the panel represent a re-abuse of people who are badly let down by the system. And I'm talking about cases of unexplained deaths, which family members believe to be murder, as in the case of James Goonan, where the reply of the panel to that family was, "We're very sorry for your loss. It seems to be that your problem is that the guards didn't investigate the murder properly, in your opinion. So the conclusion now is that we're going to ask the guards not to re-investigate it, which would have been bad enough considering that that was that, but we're going to ask the Commissioner for a report." That was the outcome of a year's deliberation in the case of an horrific death of an elderly gentleman. Another woman on to me this morning, sexual abuse allegations in relation to her 2 children, not investigated. The answer she got back was, this case went to the DPP, that's it. The whole point behind this was that people had problems with the investigative process that was there, be it the DPP, the Gardaí or whatever. To get an answer like that, it really, to me, exposes the entire system.
Thank you, Minister.
What I would say to you, Deputy, is that an independent process was set up where all of the material that was available in relation to a particular case was reviewed by an independent counsel. I would say to you that of the 300 cases, they varied very considerably. Some were in relation to property, some had been before the Supreme Court, some were 20 years historical cases, 20 years old and longer, some were more recent. In every case, the panel examined independently and objectively the material. Approximately 80% of the cases have finished now. Some came in more recent times, so they're not. Replies have started to be issued to the complainants. An independent judge has examined the summary from the panel and has looked at the letters that have summarised the work of the panel, because obviously there's a lot of references to third parties, so the entire material cannot be sent out. And I would say this is an objective, fair review panel that has been put in place. I can't stand here and go over the details of each case with you. You may cite the details of individual cases. I'm not in a position to go into the reasons here, and indeed I owe it to the complainants and to give them as much information as I can. I can't respond to particular cases that you highlight, Deputy. I can just say to you that an independent process was put in place that was fair, that was independently reviewing all of the material, which has never been done before. Recommendations in many of the cases will be made for further action of varying types. Some of it will be referring cases to Garda Síochána. Some of it will be in relation to Garda Síochána having new protocols. In certain instances, GSOC will be asked to do an investigation where there was never an investigation before. So there's a whole variety of responses in relation to individual cases. As I say, I'm not in a position to stand here and respond individually to the points to the individual cases. It wouldn't be appropriate for me. I can describe the fair process that has been put in place with an independent panel.
Deputy Clare Daly.
Minister, that you should be in a position, and I'd like you to go back and re-examine those figures and statistics that you gave, because it is precisely out of respect for the complainants that I raised these queries. People like the family of John Kelly, who are outside in the lashing of rain because their brother's death has never been explained. And we put out a call the last time we had questions here to ask many of the hundreds of people who submitted those complaints, had any of them been asked for extra information, had any of them resubmitted extra information and been examined on that. Not one person. People came back and every single one of them said not in their cases. And in fact, we're aware of many cases, like the Toohey family, for example, where evidence came to light and the panel patently refused to look at it. So I don't believe that the process carried out any serious examination at all. I think the concerns that were highlighted on this side of the House, that was an attempt to divert attention actually from the growing anger among some of those families for justice, because out of the replies that we've seen so far, there hasn't been one. And you again didn't answer how many of those cases that have been concluded, because none of the conclusions that we've seen, and we've begun to see many, would accept the viewpoint that you put forward.
To conclude now, we're over time.
Well, I've given you information that said further information was supplied by complainants in over 200 cases. That's the facts of the matter. Further information was supplied to the panel by over 200 complainants. That's the reality. I don't know which complainants you're in touch with. I accept your bona fides in relation to what you're saying, but I'm telling you that over 200 gave further information. I do want to say the process of the independent review is not a commission. It is not a commission of investigation or an inquiry designed to make findings such as a commission would make. Its purpose was to triage the allegations to see if further action was needed. And I've given an indication of the kind of further action that has been recommended in some of the cases that have been seen, and the letters have begun to go out to those cases that are completed, and that process has been overseen by an independent judge.